Good to go. Get your person back on.
It's called Karma. It's the one I normally wear. Last week was a new one. Changed it up.
All right, we're going to begin in 30 seconds. Council, ensure your cell phones are off or on silent. Will everybody ensure your cell phones are off or on silent? Ensure your microphones are turned on. Before we begin, I do want to put out a friendly reminder that Council Rule 203C prohibits the use of electronic devices behind the gate. To clarify that, Joel, to add to that council members with personal devices outside of the devices that were issued by the city are the only ones permitted, but if you do have to take a phone call or need to get on the phone for any reason outside of your committee, let the chair know, and you're more than welcome to go beyond the fence. Good evening. Today is Monday, November 14th, 2022. It is 6:01 p.m. Today we have a regular legislative meeting for the Barberton City Council. Before we begin the regular legislative meeting, we are going to hop into individual committee meetings this afternoon, and we will start with City Properties, Parks, and Recreation with Mr. Jaber.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Properties and Parks and Recreation meeting November 14th at 6:01. Council chambers, all members are present, including Mr. Heidick, Mrs. Fry, and myself as chair. And other council members noted and guests also noted. We have one new request for legislation. I'm sure it's one, two. Yeah, it's just one. A letter from Don Patterson, Director of Parks and Recreation, requesting legislation to enter a contract with Peren Asphalt and Concrete for $38,500 in ARPA funds. This is for the tear out of the existing installation of the new tennis courts at Bernstein Park. Emergency wording requested. Before we have discussion and motion, voting on this, I'd like to invoke Council Rule 702 to suspend Rule 302, 304, and 401.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Heidick?
And I'll second it.
All right. Thank you. Any discussions or questions on that? I'm sorry, vote.
Aye.
Mrs. Fry?
Aye, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. Any discussions or questions about that? Mr. Spear?
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify, we talked about it earlier, but this is for an additional $2,000 on top of the legislation that was passed.
Correct. With the price increase of, all the stuff they needed for it, it's up to $2,000. All right, Mr. Patterson?
Yes. The quote I got was back in the spring. This is all 2,000 since the original vote.
Just for materials and stuff like that.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Angeloff?
And this will be done this year? Is there?
It probably won't get done this year, but the price will be locked in, so that we'll get on their schedule. They'll let me know here shortly once the purchase order is over, when they'll actually start.
So the price will be locked in for next year, just early spring? Thank you. All right, any other questions? Committee, council? All right, vote for this, please.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. And vote please.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Mr. Pass, thank you, sir. And ma'am, we have pending legislation, disposal of electric stove and ordinance authorizing the city of Barberton to dispose of electric stove located in a Ryan Building within the kitchen area of the White Rabbit Galleries on Gov Deals. Any questions on that? Seeing none? All right. Open this up in this discussion in committee. Mr. Heidig?
Thank you, Chair. Director Patterson, when I saw you at Ivy League Web Park, is there a time frame or anything with cameras or any legislation coming?
Yeah, I was getting an additional quote. I finally found another company that would actually give us a quote on it. The only catch with them is that we will need some type of broadband, whether it's a monthly service or something like that. So I'm just getting another quote because once it hits over 50,000, I may have to get it out. So I'm just trying to get another quote so we can get in the budget for next year. Web and Edgewood is actually going to be covered by community development grant money. So those will be done ASAP, and then additional parks will be on budget for next year.
And one more.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chair. With that, Director, Mr. Mayor, he mentioned the broadband. Is that part of the ARPA appropriation to put the broadband in those parks?
Yeah, we're still working with Summit County and their consultants on the best path to go for us and for the county. So it could be one and the same, could be kind of separate paths, kind of connect. The county's out for a bid right now for an ISP provider. They want to make sure that everyone that they contract with brings capital to the table, which lessens our costs out. So we'll see where it goes. I think that's due in early December. We'll have more information soon.
Thank you. That's all I had, Chair.
Thank you, sir. Just from my end, I had a couple of residents ask about the lights at the park. And like the ordinance says, sunsets and sundown. So technically they can't use the park when the sun's down. So if they ask for lights, say, hey, you're out of luck. I'm sorry. But I mean, even though it's dark at 5:30, and lighting would be nice, but as the ordinance says, there's no usage for the park after sunset. So if anybody has any questions or any constituents or residents, reach out to you. I'd reach out to myself or Mr. Patterson. We can let them know what the ordinance is. Great, thank you. Any other questions or this night's discussion? I'm sorry?
Lights are expensive.
Yes. Ms. Thompson?
Thank you. I just wanted to see if there was any updates on the fire at College Park.
Oh, yes. I talked to Mr. Patterson. It's going to cost us, to replace that $123,000, but the insurance, we have a deductible of $10,000. Remember, Mr. Patterson?
Yes.
So our deductible is $10,000.
Okay, so it is covered by the insurance, so.
Yes.
Okay, so that's good.
You know, have we started that project yet?
Yes, I gave her all the information
Okay.
so I'm just waiting to hear that.
Perfect.
I want to get that stuff tore out, but I'm just waiting for the plan to start.
Yeah, that makes sense. I drove by and it's concerning to look at because I'm sure that, there's still kids that are messing around over
Right.
there and it's not safe, so thank you.
Mr. Griffin?
Have they caught anyone?
Yes, those two juveniles were caught. I don't know how what happened with the charges. Have you heard anything or
There's only one juvenile.
one juvenile? Okay.
Is there any chance of payback or something
So
from
we're pursuing that with the charges, some type of
Right.
restitution.
some type of?
We'll update on that.
All right. Any other discussions, questions? All right. Motion to adjourn, please.
Make that motion.
And I'll second it.
All right. Second, Mrs. Fry. First, Mr. Heidig. We adjourn at 6:08, sir, and we pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jaber. Next up is Public Welfare and Safety with Mrs. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. President. The time is 6:08 PM, and I am calling the Public Welfare and Safety Committee meeting to order. All members of the committee are present, me as chair, Mr. Griffin, and Joyce Coburn as members of the committee. All other council members are present, and also guests as noted on my agenda sheet. We have no new requests for legislation, but this evening we will be voting on an amendment It is ordinance number 152, 2022. The title is amending Barberton Codified Ordinances, Chapter 351, Parking Generally, and ordinance amending Section 351.05, night parking of commercial recreational vehicles in residential districts and declaring an emergency. Does anyone have any comments or questions about this?
No,
This is our second amendment in probably 2 or 3 years, so I hope that we've hit all of the vehicles that are not allowed. But I would think that just saying any vehicle over 1,000 pounds would kind of cover everything. Is there any miscellaneous discussion for public welfare and safety this evening? Mr. Jaber?
Thank you, Ms. Fry. Has any other council members getting complaints about more speeding in the areas or just through the city or more traffic violations? Has anybody got any of that? I've gotten 3 in the past week. I mean, of course, one was the tragic accident the past week.
Where were they speeding?
One was speeding on Morgan Street. It was an accident on the top of the hill. And one was on 7th and Page and also on the bridge.
Well, if you would report it to...
I did tell the constituents to report it, but I mean, my question was to see if anybody else had any complaints.
No, I haven't had any.
So, thank you.
No. And I don't think anybody else has either.
Mr. Fry, you said all vehicles over 1,000 pounds. What do you mean by that? Carrying weight or hauling weight? Or you said
How
over-
much they weigh, I believe.
What's that?
I think how much they weigh,
Gross weight,
Oh.
how much the
how
actual
much
weight,
the vehicle weighs.
how much it can carry.
Yeah, how much it can carry, not 1,000
Trucks
pounds.
are determined by actual weight, gross
Right,
weight.
right, okay.
So 2 ton is a big truck.
Yeah,
Right.
Most trucks are 3/4.
Right, okay.
but I think that should cover it. And there should be no arguments about whether or not they should move them. All right, anything else? Hearing nothing, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Mrs. Coburn,
And I
seconded
second.
by Mr. Barberton. And we are adjourned at 6:11 PM.
Thank you, Mr. Fry. Rules, Marketing, and Development, Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to call this meeting to order today, November 14th. We're meeting in council chambers. All members are present, and all others that are noted here on my sheet. Tonight, we have no request for legislation, but we do have miscellaneous discussion. A letter from Mayor Judge requesting a change in Council Rule 305B. Timeliness to read, council shall consider appointments to all vacancies to boards and commissions in October through the last council meeting of the year of the expiring term of year of said vacancy. Added language in bold. Is there anybody want to discussion? Talk with that?
Beside you.
Yes, Ms. Heidi.
Thank you, Chair. Just for clarification, the rule in place now was to prevent anything after October, was to prevent in someone in the administration, if they were to lose an election, to basically flood boards and commissions for years past in his final 2 months before a new mayor would come in, which would basically stranglehold a new mayor. That was the original intent behind that when we had this discussion years ago. The charter does allow the vacancy in November could still be filled by a current mayor or a new mayor, and with a vacancy that would last 42 days, it would put it at February 12th that the council would be free to submit. Conversations with the mayor to make sure him and I were both on the same page with the charter rules. 606 of the charter, the mayor could still remove an appointed member within 30 days notice of removal. A 2/3 majority of the council could still override any removal. So it would still give flexibility. It was more put into place that future appointments couldn't be flooded for 3, 4, 5 years, depending on boards or commissions, by lack of a better word, a lame duck administration. just giving the background to that one.
I'm sorry, but that's not why I thought we did it at all. I thought we did it to prevent us from having 10 people needing to be appointed in November. I was here. I don't remember your discussion right there as being any reason why we did this.
That was a small part of it, yes, because that would
Well,
basically be
I totally understood we put this in so that we wouldn't get tied up the month of November doing commissions, appointments.
but that could essentially happen any time of the year.
But if he's not allowed to put them in until October,
Unless there's a current vacancy.
why do we have to wait till, and now you're saying you don't want it to go? I'm very confused.
I'm not adverse to either scenario here. I was just giving a little bit of background of different scenarios and different things, because the original letter of request from the mayor had different time frames on it there. And I was giving the corrections per the emails back and forth that we had.
Because it seems like if he gets people to sign up in the spring, he's not allowed to bring them to us until October is what and then the people don't answer or they don't want to wait that long. I mean, why do we have to have it just October, the month of October?
As I said, I'm not opposed to any of this, but
Well, I think we
There's just-
should have a little more leniency to be able to have appointments. I understand the lame duck thing, but that was never the reason I thought we initiated this in the first place.
Mrs. Antoff?
I agree, because that wasn't, it was not brought up that that was one of the main reasons in case the mayor loses, that he can fill the boards and whatnot. That I do not recall ever being part of the scenario of this whole thing. I just thought that you put a deadline in October, so then in January, everything then is
In place.
in place. But my argument was last week was the fifth Monday. We didn't have council. We could have voted on it last week, but we didn't have council. So that's my argument, is that we had to invoke the rules and whatnot because it was in November. Well, we didn't have that meeting in October because it was the fifth Monday. If we would have had that Monday, if we would have been here, we would have voted on it in October. So that was my argument. But what you said, that's the first I've
Well,
heard that. That really is.
I'm going with reading an email chain the mayor and I had and put some concerns in there, and that's why I'm.
That's you and the mayor. The rest
Right.
of us didn't get that email.
Right, exactly.
That's why I'm
And it's
giving.
not Supreme
That's why I'm
Court
reading it here.
justices.
Mr. Mayor, do you have any clarification on this? Since you brought up in this. Email?
I know when this was first put into the rules, there was a lot of discussion and reasons for it, back and forth. And Councilman Heidick and I inadvertently provided a letter to, for tonight, that will be brought up in 2 weeks actually, to Councilman Heidick instead of Councilman Griffin, so I apologize for that. Sent the letter to him and explained kind of my reasoning, and he was like, wait a minute, this needs to go to Councilman Griffin. But we still kind of communicated about the letter and the reasons for changing, and giving more time to appoint people to boards. And kind of my thought was, in a non-election year, if there is no lame duck, hate for someone to miss, the administration to miss that October deadline and say, well, I'm not going to do anything, I'll just wait until the year ends. Because in the appointment ends, then I'll just go to the council and reappoint the person January 1st. So it's kind of a way to slide the rule, all legal within the rules and everything. But no one ever wants to do that. Hey, I didn't get it done in the October deadline for whatever reason. Can I have the month of November or what have you? And as I mentioned last week, some boards and commissions, you have to have a certain background. And so trying to get a hold of someone to see if they're willing to serve in that volunteer capacity. Most people want to come and attend a meeting, so there's another month. And then getting them the application, having them fill it out, send it back, takes time, unfortunately. A lot of people are new to the system, the process, they want to find out first, they've got to talk to their family. and people are busy. So sometimes I hate to go out and get a bunch of commitments in May or April and May, and then have to wait until October. Because one thing I like to do is if someone's serving in that capacity and they're doing a good job, based on the staff that are there, and I talk to our staff members and the other board members, why would I remove them? So I kind of give them the first crack if they want to stay on that board. So some people aren't sure, and so it just comes down to the time factor. I don't know if that clarifies anything.
Just makes it muddier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we have anyone else on this one? I have something here I want to bring up on the rules, use of electronic devices. I know Mr. Rivera, President, he explained it as far as the railing, but I would like to have it amended to put it in writing that during short breaks or recesses in between, it should be put in writing that we still can't use electronic devices. That would clarify it to me.
Nothing behind the bars.
Nothing behind the bar,
Even during breaks.
even during breaks.
But-
Do we have any discussion, ma'am?
But like, I can step away.
Yes.
Right.
Over the
Okay,
side,
yeah.
yes.
What's your reasoning for that, though? No, why behind the chambers?
This-
On break. This
I think it's just distraction
on break is distraction?
Yeah.
How's it distracted to you?
because there may be something that was taken and it shouldn't be. Put it like pictures or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Recordings or something, and I don't think that would be proper for that to happen.
Is the, Mr. President?
His committee.
Is the open mic turned off during our breaks?
No.
No.
Nope, everything you say in the breaks goes out, even
Yes.
if you turn your mic off, another mic's picking it up.
So now you're trying to say that you don't want to use nobody on break, when we're not in council, nobody can use their phone on this side.
Right, on the other side. On the other side of the, yes, Mrs. Angela.
I just think it's, if anybody's watching it, it's a bad move.
Yes.
You know, if they don't know the procedure, all they see is somebody on their cell phone. Whether it's break, whether it's during, they don't understand the procedure with that. And I just think that it just sends a bad message. You know, it's like a student in school,
On
and
phone,
just
yeah.
being there on their phone. You know, it sends a bad message.
Oh, yes, Mrs. Fry.
I think initially when we did do the rules,
Mm-hmm.
that was how it was set up. However, the word break isn't in there, just like so many words aren't in so many ordinances, so people push that. But that is how it was set up, that the phones were never to come over on this side and be used. Break or during meetings or whatever, and it just didn't get into the rules. So therefore, since everybody wants to be able to see the word, we'll have to put that you can't do it during break also.
Everybody understands that? Okay.
Well, let me verify, you can use it at break time if you go.
On the other side of it, right. That's the boundary right there, whatever time frame.
Around the hall.
Yes. So if we don't have anything else, miscellaneous, yes, Mr. President.
Thank you, Chair. Just to kind of piggyback on that electronic ordinance, the reason that Mr. Griffin brought that up is I asked him when we got the request from the mayor to change the ruling for appointments from October through the rest of the year, is that now, and the mayor mentioned it last time too, is now, instead of just changing one, I talked to Mr. Griffin about having like an annual review. There might not be nothing to change, but at least have that discussion, so that's why another topic was brought up. And I asked Mr. Griffin if that would be an idea that he would be willing to entertain. Starting in October, we start reviewing, just picking apart the rules. Most of the time, I would assume, even in 10 years, most of the time the rules won't change. But it is good practice to look at them. There's a couple things small little things that I want to change, more nitpicky. But, so that's just context on why another rule was brought up too as well.
We need a vote from the committee to go forward with each rule change so that I can put it on the legislative agenda.
Yeah, are not going, my assumption is we want to collect the rule changes. The rule change for the October through the last council meeting of the year, if there's any, I don't think that would affect any other appointments, so there's no need to actually change it now at this time, but we should at least look at some changes by the end of the year
Yes.
before we roll into next year. So the chair will provide all the changes to be read at the legislative meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, Mr.
Is he saying that we're not voting on this about the appointments?
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, we're not voting on
President.
anything.
The time
you're
is
going
fast,
to-
it doesn't matter about the appointments because it's over with, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay, so,
right, for this year.
right,
Yes.
so you're going to make a list and then we're gonna vote on
Right.
all of the changes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Mayor, to your knowledge, are there any more appointments that need to be done? Because if so, we would have to vote on this tonight in order to do that, or are all appointments done after tonight's agenda?
I'll check it off the top of my head, I'm not sure.
Being that the case, Chair, it would be up to you if you want to move forward to get this rule in front of the body to change, just in case the mayor finds one or two that needs to be done.
Yes, Mr. Angelo.
And there can always be like an emergency, somebody lose their job, or
Right.
somebody move away, and they feel that they can't perform on that board. I mean, you're only looking at November, December, but it is a possibility. It's happened to me when I had to find somebody, and after 2 weeks, they decided against it. Then what do? You know, you have to find somebody else in December to get started in January.
Right.
So there's that possibility, very slim, I would think, that somebody could decide for some reason, personal or what, that they agreed, and then we appointed them, and then they didn't want to do it. So I think that should probably be put in place.
Mrs. Colbert.
At this point in time, we can invoke all those rules that we did before, right?
Right.
So we can wait and do this. Am I correct in my thinking
Yes.
that it would just be a matter of invoking like we did last week? So we don't need to change this tonight.
No.
Okay, thank you.
It's already in place about electronic devices.
Right.
We were just, we were just reaffirming it in writing. That's all we were doing. So we don't have any more discussion. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I will second it.
Thank you. We're adjourned at 6:27.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Next up is City Utilities with Mrs. Coburn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to call city utilities to order, 6:27 in council chambers. All members are present. We have no requests for legislation tonight. We will be voting on the legislation that we brought out last week, which was to enter into contract with Vanderveer Chevrolet, an ordinance authorizing the city of Barberton to enter into contract with Vanderveer Chevrolet for the lowest and best bidder not to exceed the amount of $89,694 for the purchase of a new 2022 Chevy Silverado 5500 dump truck. I don't like all those zeros. And declaring an emergency. We'll be voting on that tonight. Is there any other discussion for utilities? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Coburn. Can you email me the estimates? You said you guys got 3 estimates.
Yes, I got that. I'm sure we can forward that to you. I didn't bring it up tonight. But we can get you forwarded that information.
Thank you. Can I ask Mr. one more question?
Yeah,
Mr. Shreve, are you going with Chevys, or do you also look at Dodges and Fords, or just look at Chevys only?
So no, we looked at GMC, Chevy, and Dodge were the 3 different trucks that we compared. We got quotes on all 3. The Vanderveer was the cheaper of the 3.
Okay. Yeah, if you don't mind, please send me that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shreve.
Yep.
Is there any other miscellaneous discussion for utilities? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
We are adjourned at 6:29.
Thank you, Mr. Comer. Last but not least, Finance and Personnel, Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance Personnel, it is 6:29, Monday, November 14th. We are in council chambers. All committee is present, which includes Councilors Coburn, Thompson, President Greer, and myself as chair. We have no new requests for legislation. For pending, we have ordinance 150-2022, authorizing payment, Metro Divisional Transit Authority, authorizing the Director of Finance to pay an invoice to the Metro Divisional Transit Authority in the amount of $3,006.25 for bus passes, declaring an emergency. Ordinance 154-2022, lease purchase agreement, Huntington National Bank, authorizing the Director of Finance to enter into a 3-year lease purchase agreement with Huntington Public Capital Corporation, Huntington National Bank, to finance a 2022 Nissan Rogue in the amount of $22,035 for use by the Planning Department using CDBG funds and declaring emergency. Is there any comments on either of these pieces of legislation? Gallery? In that case, open up to miscellaneous discussion. Any from the committee? From the body? From the gallery? Two minutes in, nothing? Anyone? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. I'll second. Thank you. We are adjourned at 6:31. Thank you, Mr. Heidick. That concludes our individual committee meetings for this evening. We're going to take a short break, short 5-minute break, and we'll begin our regular legislative meeting. What if you say you throw in the crowd?
Right.
So instead of trying to just do it, it's just like bang.
Yes.
Meet every week, basically. Kind of see, call for things. That.
They changed the bag out the bag, but that is water. That's a fresh. I know.
Yeah.
And I did a picture of this years ago. You know, it's the darkest, it's expanding. It's starting to dry, it's just brownish with the gray on the inside, so it is expanding. I don't know.
What does that tell you? What does that tell you? You got to I think I remember that down before. I know, yeah. Too many things.
Best day to work is to get lunch
I mean, that would be real. Now. Yeah, look at girls. Yeah, I mean,
That one's.
Are you feeling it? I know. This is my favorite time of year though, because it's like dark at 5:30 and you're like forced to relax. I know, I love it. I love in the summer when it's bright out. We have like skylights. I'm like, I don't even care. The sun's still shining. I'm going to bed. That's good. Yeah, sometimes. Oh yeah. Oh my God. I probably get triple the amount of work done at home versus in the office. But you know what's crazy is like that some people don't see it that way. Certain roles I get you have to, but like what I do.
All right, we're going to begin in 30 seconds.
Being there for a full day. So yeah, I mean, you just have a clearer mind.
Nope. That's
638.
Can't do it.
We're going to do something about this. This isn't going to vote. I can't see it. Get a taller chair.
This chair is probably good.
What is that chair so?
I was just.
This one's gonna be sitting very like to the ground.
Benches out there, so I might have to.
Shouldn't it be up higher?
Move higher.
Yeah, I'm back my balls.
The chair should be up higher.
No, for this chair.
I mean, I feel like it should be like a stool.
Nice to get it put together.
Oh, mine is too. It's been last week. Joyce said it was falling apart.
You could probably see my forehead over it.
All right, good evening. This is a regular legislative meeting of Barberton City Council. Today is Monday, November 14th, 2022. I call this meeting to order at 6:39 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation by Mr. Griffin.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all. Let's bow our heads, please. God of all nations, Father of the human family, we give you thanks for the freedom we exercise and the many blessings of democracy we enjoy in these United States of America. We ask for your protection and guidance for all who devote themselves to the common good, working for justice and peace at home and around the world. We lift up all our duly elected leaders and public servants, those who will serve as president, as legislator, judges, and in the military and law enforcement. Heal us from our differences and unite us, O Lord, with a common purpose, dedication, and commitment to achieve liberty, justice in the years ahead for all people, and especially those who are most vulnerable in our midst. Let us say amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Clerk, please call the roll. Present.
Mr. Heidick.
Here.
Mrs. Thompson.
Here.
Mrs. Bailey.
Here.
Mrs. Angela.
Here.
Mr. Griffin.
Here.
Mr. Jaber.
Here.
Mrs. Coburn.
Here.
Mrs. Fry.
Here.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes of the regular legislative meeting held on Monday, October 24th, 2022. Mr. Haddock?
Thank you, Mr. President. I motion for the approval of the minutes of the regular legislative meeting held on Monday, October 24th, 2022.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mrs. Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second Mr. Heidick's motion to approve the minutes from Monday, October 24th, 2022.
Thank you. It was moved by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Thompson to approve the minutes of the regular legislative meeting held on October 24th, 2022 as presented. Are there any remarks? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Minutes are adopted. Approval of the minutes of the special legislative meeting held on Monday, November 7th, 2022. Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Mr. President. I motion for the approval of the minutes of the special legislative meeting held on Monday, November 7th, 2022.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mrs. Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second Mr. Heidick's motion to approve the minutes from the special legislative meeting from Monday, November 7th, 2022.
Thank you. It was moved by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Thompson to approve the minutes of the special legislative meeting held on Monday, November 7th, 2022, as presented. Are there any remarks? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Minutes are adopted. Acceptance of the finance report. Finance Department report for the month of October 2022 as presented. Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the acceptance of the finance report for the month of October 2022.
Thank you. Mrs. Coburn?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second that motion for the acceptance of the finance report.
Thank you. It was moved by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Coburn to accept the finance report for the month of October 2022 as presented. Are there any remarks? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Financial report is adopted. Petitions and claims? Thank you. Matters requested? Citizens addressing council. Thank you, Mrs. Angeloff, as always. First reading of ordinances and resolutions.
Resolution number 149-2022, presented by Mrs. Thompson. Title: Community Reinvestment Area Extension. A resolution establishing the need for a designation of the extension of Community Reinvestment Area 3 as permitted in section 3735.66 of the Ohio Revised Code and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Motion to suspend. Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules required by Section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter be suspended.
Thank you. Mrs. Angelo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second the motion for suspension.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mrs. Thompson and seconded by Mrs. Angeloff to suspend the rule as required by Section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Mrs. Angela.
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn.
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Frye.
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey.
Yes.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Mr. Heidick.
Yes.
Mr. Jaber.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion for suspension carries. Motion to adopt. Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of Resolution Number 145, 2022.
Thank you. Mrs. Angelo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will second that motion for adoption.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mrs. Thompson and seconded by Mrs. Angeloff to adopt resolution number 149-2022. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Mr. Jaber.
Yes.
Mr. Heidick.
Yes.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey.
Yes.
Mrs. Frye.
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn.
Yes.
Mrs. Angela.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion for adoption carries.
Ordinance number 150-2022, presented by Mr. Heidick. Title: Authorized Payment, Metro Divisional Transit Authority. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Finance to pay an invoice to Metro Divisional Transit Authority in the amount of $3,006.25 for bus passes and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Motion to suspend, Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules required by Section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter be suspended.
Thank you. Mrs. Coburn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll second that motion for suspension.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Coburn to suspend the rule as required by Section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Mrs. Bailey.
Yes.
Mrs. Frye.
Yes.
Mrs. Angela.
Yes.
Mr. Heidick.
Yes.
Mr. Jaber.
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn.
Yes.
Motion for suspension carries. Motion to adopt, Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of ordinance 150-2022.
Thank you. Mrs. Coburn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll second that motion for adoption.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Coburn to adopt ordinance number 150-2022. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Mrs. Coburn.
Yes.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Jaber.
Yes.
Mr. Heidick.
Yes.
Mrs. Angela.
Yes.
Mrs. Frye.
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey.
Yes.
Motion for adoption carries.
Ordinance number 151-2022, presented by Mr. Jaber. Title: Disposal of Electric Stove. An ordinance authorizing the city of Barberton to dispose of an electric stove located in the White Ant Building within the kitchen area of the White Rabbit Galleries on Govdy.
Thank you. Is there no emergency wording on this?
No, sir.
All right. Motion, and this is one reading.
Yes.
Motion to suspend, Mr. Jaber.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the rules required by Section 5.1 of the Barberton City Charter be suspended.
Thank you. Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will second Councilor Jaber's motion on suspension.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mr. Jaber and seconded by Mr. Heidick to suspend the rule as required by Section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Mr. Jaber.
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Frye.
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn.
Yes.
Mr. Heidick.
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey.
Yes.
Mrs. Angela.
Yes.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Motion for suspension carries. Motion to adopt. Mr. Jaber.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of ordinance number 151-2022, please.
Thank you. Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will second the motion for adoption.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mr. Jaber and seconded by Mr. Heidick to adopt ordinance number 151-2022. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Mrs. Angela.
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey.
Yes.
Mr. Heidick.
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn.
Yes.
Mrs. Frye.
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Jaber.
Yes.
Motion for adoption carries.
Ordinance number 152-2022, presented by Mrs. Frye. Title, amending Barberton Codified Ordinances, Chapter 351, parking generally, and ordinance amending Section 351.05, night parking of commercial, recreational vehicles in residential districts, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Motion to suspend, Mrs. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rule as required by Section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter be suspended.
Thank you. Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to second Mrs. Fry's motion on suspension.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mrs. Fry and seconded by Mr. Griffin to suspend the rule as required by Section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Mrs. Frye.
Oh, yes.
Mrs. Bailey.
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn.
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Angela.
Yes.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Mr. Heidick.
Yes.
Mr. Jaber.
Yes.
Motion for suspension carries. Motion to adopt, Mrs. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of ordinance number 152-2022.
Thank you. Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to second Mrs. Fry's motion on adoption.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mrs. Fry and seconded by Mr. Griffin to adopt ordinance number 152-2022. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Mr. Jaber.
Yes.
Mr. Heidick.
Yes.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Mrs. Angela.
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn.
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey.
Yes.
Mrs. Frye.
Yes.
Motion for adoption carries.
Ordinance number 153-2022, presented by Mrs. Coburn. Title, enter into contract Vanderveer Chevrolet. An ordinance authorizing the city of Barberton to enter into contract with Vanderveer Chevrolet, the lowest and/or best bidder, not to exceed the amount of $89,694 for the purchase of a new 2022 Chevy Silverado 5500 dump truck and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Motion to suspend, Mrs. Coburn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rule as required by Section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter be suspended.
Thank you. Mrs. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I second Mrs. Coburn's motion to suspend.
Thank you. Motion was made by Mrs. Coburn and seconded by Mrs. Fry to suspend the rule as required by Section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Mr. Heidick.
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn.
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey.
Yes.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Mr. Jaber.
Yes.
Mrs. Frye.
Yes.
Mrs. Angela.
Yes.
Motion for suspension carries. Motion to adopt, Mrs. Coburn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of ordinance number 153-2022.
Thank you. Mrs. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I second Mrs. Coburn's motion to adopt.
Thank you. Motion was made by Mrs. Coburn and seconded by Mrs. Fry to adopt ordinance number 153-2022. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Mrs. Angela.
Yes.
Mrs. Frye.
Yes.
Mr. Jaber.
Yes.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey.
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn.
Yes.
Mr. Heidick.
Yes.
Motion for adoption carries.
Ordinance number 154-2022, presented by Mr. Heidick. Lease purchase agreement, Huntington National Bank. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Finance to enter into a 3-year lease purchase agreement with Huntington Public Capital Corporation, Huntington National Bank, to finance a 2022 Nissan Rogue in the amount of $22,035 for use by the Planning Department using CDBG funds and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Motion to suspend, Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rule required by section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter be suspended.
Thank you. Mrs. Coburn?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second that motion for suspension.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Coburn to suspend the rule as required by section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Heidick?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Fry?
Yes.
Mrs. Angela?
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn?
Yes.
Mr. Jaber?
No.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Motion for the suspension carries. Motion to adopt, Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of ordinance 154, 2022.
Thank you. Mrs. Coburn?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd second that motion for adoption.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Coburn to adopt ordinance number 154-2022. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Jaber?
No.
Mrs. Coburn?
Yes.
Mrs. Angela?
Yes.
Mrs. Fry?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Heidick?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Motion for adoption carries.
Ordinance number 155-2022 presented by Mr. Jaber. Title, enter into contract Parent Asphalt Company. An ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract. Hold on a second. To enter into a contract with Parent Asphalt Company in the amount of $38,500, the lowest and or best bidder, to tear out the existing tennis courts and install new tennis courts at Brightenstein Park and declaring an emergency.
Motion to suspend, Mr. Jaber.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the rule as required by section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter be suspended.
Thank you. Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Mr. President. I will second Councilor Jaber's motion on suspension.
Thank you. Motion was made by Mr. Jaber and seconded by Mr. Heidick to suspend the rule as required by section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter. Are there any remarks? Mr. Jaber?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to clarify, this is the grant money that we will be getting back, correct? Mr. Heidick?
The
Mr.
tennis
Flaker?
court. The tennis court,
The tennis court,
Brightenstein.
That is our funds.
ARPA funds? Okay. Not a general fund? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Mrs. Angela?
Yes.
Mr. Jaber?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn?
Yes.
Mrs. Fry?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Heidick?
Yes.
Motion for suspension carries. Motion to adopt, Mr. Jaber.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of ordinance number 155-2022.
Thank you, Mr. Jaber. Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Mr. President. I second the motion to adopt.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mr. Jaber and seconded by Mr. Heidick to adopt ordinance number 155-2022. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Mr. Heidick?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Fry?
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Jaber?
Yes.
Mrs. Angela?
Yes.
Motion for adoption carries.
Second reading of resolutions,
Thank you.
ordinances and resolutions.
Normally, I like to use this is the end of the first.
This is
Yeah,
the end of the first reading.
thank you. Second reading of ordinances and resolutions. Gotta keep order. Gotta keep order, or I'll go off the rails. Second reading of ordinances and resolutions.
There are none.
Thank you. Third reading of ordinances and resolutions.
There are none.
Appointments.
Summit County Board of Health, this is Mary Jo Goff, to begin immediately to represent the city of Barberton for an indefinite term.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to appoint Mrs. Goss? Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Yes. I would like to appoint Mary Jo Goss to the Summit County Board of Health.
Thank you. And is there a second, Mr. Jaber?
Yes, I'll have to second. Mrs.
Goss.
Goss.
See, I told you.
Yes, see, we're good to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion was made by Mrs. Bailey and seconded by Mr. Jaber to appoint Mrs. Mary Jo Goss to represent the city of Barberton for the Summit County Board of Health. Are there any remarks? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
The City of Barberton's Planning Commission, Mr. Don Wood, to begin January 1st, 2023 for a 4-year term ending December 31st, 2027.
Do I have a motion to appoint Mr. Wood? Mrs. Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Don Wood to continue serving for a 4-year term ending 12/31/2027 on the city's planning commission.
Thank you. And Mrs. Angela? Or
Thank
Mrs.
you,
Fry,
Mr.
did you want?
President. It's okay. Oh, thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second the motion to appoint Don Wood to a 4-year term on the planning commission.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mrs. Thompson and seconded by Mrs. Angela to appoint Mr. Don Wood to the City of Barberton's Planning Commission. Are there any remarks? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
The motion carries.
City of Barberton's Planning Commission, Mr. Bill Best, to begin January 1st, 2023 for a 4-year term ending December 31st, 2027.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to appoint Mr. Best? Mrs. Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Bill Best to the city's planning commission for another term, which will end 12/31/2027.
Thank you. And Mrs. Angela?
Thank you, Mr. President. I will second the motion to appoint Bill Best to the planning commission.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mrs. Thompson and seconded by Mrs. Angeloff to appoint Mr. Bill Best to the City of Barberton's Planning Commission. Are there any remarks? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
City of Barberton's Board of Zoning Appeals, Mrs. Paula Callia, to begin January 1st, 2023 for a 6-year term ending December 31st, 2029.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to appoint Mrs. Callio? Mrs. Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mrs. Paula Callio to continue serving on the city's Board of Zoning Appeals, which the term will end 12/31/2029.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mrs. Angela?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to second the motion to appoint Paula Calio to the Board of Zoning Appeals, but I do want to make a remark.
Thank you.
That is 6 years. It's not 4 years, it's a 6-year term, so that's a great commitment.
Motion was made by Mrs. Thompson and seconded by Mrs. Angeloff to appoint Mrs. Paulia Callio to the City of Barberton's Board of Zoning Appeals. Are there any other remarks? I just want to say that Paula's everywhere, and every year she says, "This is it. I'm cutting down," and every year she starts something new, showing something else. So I'd have to put back Mrs. Angela. Are there any other remarks? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
City of Barberton Civil Service Commission, Mr. Christopher Macca, to begin immediately for a 6-year term ending December 31st, 2029.
Do I have a motion to appoint Mr. Macca? Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to appoint Mr. Christopher Bacco to the City of Barberton Civil Service Commission.
Thank you. Mrs. Coburn?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second that motion for appointment.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Coburn to appoint Mr. Christopher Macco to the City of Barberton Civil Service Commission. Are there any remarks? Mrs. Angela?
Yes, I have to. I'm just happy that we have a Macco. There's lots of them in town, and Christopher is very adverse in the being in HR, and I think he'll bring a lot to the table. And again, it's a 6-year term, but you're young, you can handle that. But I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Are there any other remarks? Mr. Haddock?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Mayor, the Civil Service Commission has a lot of check marks that it has to have for requirements does it not. So I'm happy to see that somebody was able to step into that.
Yeah.
And the Mac.
Any other remarks? Well, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Welcome aboard. Miscellaneous and unfinished business. Is there anything from the board or the body? Mr. Jaber?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is up to the mayor. Mayor, since the tax levy levy failed, is there a plan B now, or what's your next strategy, or?
We'll kind of reevaluate things, see where we are.
And a lot of citizens reached out to me after seeing the Acton Beacon Journal. They didn't see no signage or no, any kind of communication from the city to promote this. Was there a reason for that, or?
Yeah, I mean, by the time it got through council, in the fall, it came through several times. And then you have to go the necessary steps to start a PAC and then open up a bank account. And then order signs and do a lot of that. There just wasn't enough time.
I think a lot of residents, petitions, they didn't know what it was. So it was an Acton Beacon Journal, they seen it on the ballot. So I think if next time you want to promote it more, push it more, a little earlier, might get more residents into it.
You gonna approve it?
I voted no myself, yeah.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, that's why we're
So I'm telling
surprised.
the constituents, residents asked me to ask that
Yeah,
question.
there's a time factor to order the signs, get them there, open up the accounts, do all that. We just ran out of time. So it was about a 3-week lag time on the signs. And I was trying to get word back from the Board of Elections.
Right.
This is promoted via social media, and the money is spent. Do we have to open up a political action committee? So it took some time, because they've never had that question where a campaign is run solely on social media with no cost. We opened one just to be safe, because someone could post something, someone else could pay money to have it sent out to more people, and therefore that would trigger it. But it took some time to get that work back as well. So, but we're set up for next time if that's the way we decide to go.
And you have to remember, we had 3 specials because the wording wasn't right. It was wrong and wrong and wrong. So, 3 readings, how long did that take? And that put the time back on that.
But it was done, the issue, once that was done, the issue coming from the Board of Elections.
Yeah.
Right.
We actually got that from Councilman Hyde.
Is there any other, anything else from any other council member? Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Mayor and Director Iceman, with what Councilor Jaber said, is there a schedule for the speed wagon? Perhaps we could put it up at the bottom of the bridge again to try to slow some people down, or Morgan Street, as he said. I don't know if there's a schedule already in place for it.
There is a schedule. We'll talk to the chief, see if we can see what that schedule looks like.
It's also solar powered,
Yeah.
Oh.
so it's,
Yeah.
I have had requests to put it in, and it's not easy right now.
Thank you.
While we're on that subject, Ms. Iceman, was that light in the bottom of the bridge out when the accident happened? I was at the memorial, and there was 10, 15 people saying the light was out and then had replaced afterwards. That's true?
Not to my knowledge, it's always
Yeah.
flashing yellow.
No, not the light, the one of the street lights. The crosswalk was at. Did you get it?
It wasn't at the crosswalk.
I know, but that's where the light was out. That's what they're asking. All right. Thank you.
All right, is there any other comments or remarks from council members? Anything to share? Department heads? I don't see Mr. Shreve here, but we did talk about leaf pickup. And I just wanted to thank the crews while he was filling up his Polar Pop cup with coffee at Circle K. He said that they just got done doing 87 truckloads on 2 roads with leaves on a shift. So those guys have been out and about, and I've heard good things. Just want to put that out there. Is there anything else?
I have a question. You're talking about leaf pickup. I did have someone who said that their leaves were missed. They are coming back around.
I would reach out to Mr. Shreve
Oh,
directly
that's
just
what I
to make
thought.
sure, but yeah, they.
Okay,
So we're getting into a weird time period. We'll finish up the leaves.
yeah,
We're at the mercy of
Right.
Mother Nature, so let's say it snows next week
yeah,
and we can't finish all the leaves. We'll come back if we get a good day in December or January, if not first fall.
okay,
But we'll try to get back as soon as we can.
okay.
All right, anything else? Communication from the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. For ordinance 148, 2020, the rental registration, I'm supposed to give an update this month. Update and discuss the 2022 rental registration. If you remember, that was passed in this ordinance in 2020. 2021, there was some weirdness with the deadlines to register, so we didn't get a full, complete year of rental registration, so 22 is the first full year. So for this year, end of October, the city collected $215,860. We've reorganized our department and increased our employees. We've hired one additional clerk. So we have two total, two additional property maintenance inspectors. And this year, not so new, but we have a new CBO in the department as well. We separated the city into zones and assigned an inspector to each zone, which has made the department more efficient and effective in their operations. Through the end of October, we have issued 1,140 citations for property maintenance. We just completed a very thorough rental registration audit, comprised of utility records, fiscal office, a lot of different records. So we're going to do that every so often. It took a lot of time. The law department was involved, but we've already sent out citations for people who haven't registered for this year, and then we're preparing for next year. So there'll be even more rounds. People are not registering, and we're able to find the audit. We're including the rental registration form in our new resident welcome packet. So when I meet with the new residents, give them the packet, we'll go over that as well. Plans for the future is to re-examine the zones and available workforce and additional programs for the rental fund. So the money that we collected doesn't all go towards the inspectors and all go towards the clerks. They're paid out of different funds. But I want to give you an update on how much we collected this year as through October. So we're still kind of going through and getting feedback from the inspectors and the clerks to see how we can make this rental registration better. So if you don't have questions tonight, please get them to me. We've got 2 more weeks this month. This month was kind of designated as that month to kind of report back. But we don't have to make changes this month. So we've got some we're looking at proposing coming to council changes of legislation. But if you have any questions, definitely, the door is always open, so feel free to contact me. Change for Change is this Friday at the Green Diamond, benefiting the Reynolds Classic and Stroke Awareness. Continuing to meet with department heads for the 2023 budget and different projects for each department. Last Thursday, the Barberton Community Foundation had their annual dinner held out at the Galaxy. The Barberton Fire Union and Mike Moore were both recognized as 2022 Game Changers. So what a great event out there, and one worthy organization and one worthy individual helping to change the community here. So I want to thank everyone who attended the Veterans Day events, quite a few of them throughout the day. The ones I attended, the Barberton VFW downtown here, the Barberton City Schools had a great program, and then the Quilts of Battle presented at Ignite Brewery. So thank you, Councilwoman Hilburn, for the beautiful quilts. No Board of Health meeting next Wednesday, this month. It always falls on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and we never have it to work, so we typically cancel that anyway. And lastly, there's a council work session or retreat this Thursday here in council chambers at 6 p.m. Should last about an hour, but there's no end time frame. So this is open to the public and the press. For council members to provide feedback on projects in your ward that you'd like to see. You're going to find out that my office is working diligently on a lot of the projects and programs that you're going to come up with. So we look at everything. New projects, existing projects, how to make things better, programs for youth, programs for older adults, across the whole board. So be a lot of dialogue back and forth. So want to get some ideas and some exchange some feedback with you guys on Thursday, and we'll go from there. All right, any questions for me? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Being November 14th, do you foresee the road program? I know you spoke of trying to get some passed by the end of this year. Will that be coming to us soon?
Yeah, I anticipate getting something to the finance director tomorrow or Wednesday. And then, once he says that's okay, we'll draft a letter to council. So hopefully a letter to council by the end of, I think the 23rd is the last, approximately the 23rd of November is the last day you get the letter to council.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. With nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Heidick, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Thompson? It was moved by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Thompson that we adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I didn't think so. This meeting is adjourned at 7:14 PM. Thank you.
Thanks again, Taylor, for that.
Yeah.